Hello and welcome to Films and That. My name's Rob Turnbull.
And my name's Sam Hall.
And today we're doing Blow Up by Antonioni.
Yes, I feel like we're going to get to Antonioni sooner or later. He's a well-known philosophical Italian director. So Blow Up is one of his more iconic films, and that's why we're doing it.
Great, let's get started. A day in the life of a professional photographer is turned on its head as a photograph reveals a sinister secret. Or does it? This review contains spoilers. So this film was based on a real photographer who was kind of wildly renowned for creating this kind of swinging 60s culture in London at the time. Whenever you see the picture of the Cray twins, it's always his photo that you see.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
But let's get into the opening kind of maybe 10-15 minutes of the film. Is this photographer, you know, taking pictures of these women.
Yes, very tasty. Yes, I like it, go on.
You can't watch that now without thinking of Austin Powers, can you?
Yeah, and that's I think that was obviously inspiration for that scene in Austin Powers.
Yeah, bit of hair. Smashing. Okay. Yes. No!
This film, it's not in real time, but it kind of does follow, you know, the events of his life, and it kind of shows him going somewhere and doing kind of meaningless tasks. I feel it's more about establishing the world that he's in.
It feels like a definitive 60s London film. It represents that era, the look, sort of like neorealist style. You've got the sort of dirty streets of London mixed up with the glam and fashion of London. There's one scene in which there's some mimes, a nun, and a Queen's Guard are all in the same frame for no reason, seemingly. I also get the sense with this film that it's deliberately trying to lead you off on places and sometimes focuses on things that are perhaps interesting to look at, but may not have anything to do with the main plot. Yeah. Which is kind of what the film is partially about, I think. Deep focus and things like that, thinking about what's in frame, not just what you're meant to focus on, but what you're not focusing on. Initially, actually, the very first thing you see him is he comes out of a DOS house, a temporary home for the homeless, where he's been staying overnight and taking photos, you know. Yeah. And then you find that he's been developing this album of things that are sort of dark, decrepit, violent. He describes it as one point. He's got all these really interesting photos of this DOS house and he's discussing with his manager or I don't know.
It's like a client or some kind of
man with a beard. And so, yeah, like you said, there's that contrast there between that and the commercial, glamorous world that he's almost sick of.
Smile! God. I asked you to smile. What's the matter? Forgotten what a smile is. Hey!
Let's get into his character, because it does characterize him quite well, but he's an incredibly unlikable character. He's quite chauvinistic and he's quite demanding of his clients.
He's got that sort of like dark stranger thing to him. I guess it's part of his personality, but it generally just sort of comes across as he's a complete arsehole.
I'm fed up with those bloody bitches. Wish I had tons of money.
He still has a charm, it seems, because women still seem to love him.
Yeah.
Probably because of his trade, I suppose.
Yeah, and that kind of echoes into the real photographer who, if you had your picture taken by this guy, you know, you'll kind of be thrown into stardom, you know, you'll be part of this larger whole, so they're kind of desperate to get their pictures taken by him. And then it's a bit Me Too-ish at one point.
Yes. There's another character who he's just sort of like playing around with, and she wants some photos from him that he's taken. But she sort of says, oh, okay, well, why didn't you just say what you want, and took her clothes off? Yeah. And then he waits for her to take her clothes off and then says, I'll go get the photos.
I cut out the negatives you want.
There's a sense of mystery, maybe so you don't find him too unlikable, but at the same time, he, like you said, he's incredibly chauvinistic as a character. It's like women are sort of nothing to him.
Yeah, and you got to wonder whether that's just a kind of reflection of the time of when this was made, or if he's trying to make a point.
I kind of sort of just undecided about which side of the coin that falls on.
He never actually gets what he wants, so he never succeeds. So it's not like it's glorifying his actions in any way, is it?
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, shall we get into the plot then? Because there is, although he does kind of veer off and go into tangents, there is a kind of main through point. He goes to a park and takes some photos, and then this woman comes up to him and say, "Why are you taking photos? I want those photos." It's a kind of mystery, kind of tense plot. She was involved in a murder of someone, and then these photos are evidence to that murder. But we don't actually find that out until like an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
So like you're left with knowing that there's something in these photos at like, you know, the 25-minute point. Then you've got to wait another half an hour to kind of for that mystery to be revealed. And it's kind of both frustrating and quite well paced, if you know what I mean. So you get that sense of building tense, but then you're kind of like, well, just go and develop the photos. Stop fucking about with a propeller or whatever. you know there's something in these photos. Just kind of develop them quickly.
I think that's a reflection on Antonioni. I think, although actually there's a really interesting line early on in that film. He's talking about his paintings.
They don't mean anything when I do them. Just a mess. Afterwards, I find something to hang on to. Like that. Like that leg.
They're just a mess. And then meaning sort of develops from that. And I feel like that could be the whole point of the film. There are things that we're supposed to see that could mean something and may not mean something, and we're supposed to kind of determine that as the audience. But I think to a certain extent, maybe Antonioni is saying that's kind of what I'm doing as well. I'm kind of just shooting things and writing things until I come up with a semblance of meaning afterwards.
Yeah, a lot of the scenes are fairly abstract. Like there's one scene when he goes to a gig and there's this band playing, but everyone's stationary. And it's kind of surreal. He just walks in there and everyone's just kind of stood really still, like stock still. And then they smash a guitar up or something and throw the guitar in the audience. Everyone's fighting to get this guitar, and then our main character gets it and then runs out, and then he's just like, oh, what is this? Like without context, that guitar is nothing, so he just like throws it away.
And I feel that scene actually is probably reflective of the film as a whole, because that piece of guitar meant so much to those music fans. It means absolutely nothing to most people. I think that could be like a reflection of art on the whole, is that trying to attribute meaning to something is perhaps like an abstract concept. The kind of meaning that our character derives from his art, or the other characters that derive from their art, kind of dependent on who's looking at it, maybe, or who appreciates it, be it the artist or the people appreciating the art, or maybe the people that hate the art, I don't know.
Well, yeah, context is king in there. So like that picture of the Cray twins, if you didn't know who they were, then that is meaningless, and it wouldn't have the same impact as it does if you know that they were the biggest kind of gangsters of the era at that time.
You just think it would be a nice picture of some twins.
Yeah. A nice picture.
Yeah, it was quite a good picture, I think.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it would just be like, oh, it's a nice picture of some twins. I think that's what the closing scene is kind of about, where the mimes are playing imaginary tennis game. And he joins in with that. So kind of embracing that imagination. Did he create the murder in his head or not? I think that's kind of what they're sort of flip-flopping around.
He doesn't know what to make of this murder thing that's happened, but he's still kind of reluctantly going along with it and going along with this kind of society that views art in that particular way. So he's literally playing the game. Yeah. This imaginary game that he's not even sure if he wants to be involved in, but he's just kind of going through the motions.
Maybe in that respect, it's about attributing a purpose to art, because art is ornamental at the end of the day. It's about aesthetics rather than about what you can get out of it.
Wake up!
So what did you think of Blow Up, Sam?
Blow Up. It's very, as I said, it's a very low-key film. I think I have to be in a particular mood to be into something like Blow Up.
Yeah.
So it's one of those films where sometimes it will feel like a chore. Sometimes I'll get really into it, you know. So I'm kind of on the fence about it in that respect, I think, you know. Plus it's difficult to get into a film when the lead character is unlikable, you know. That doesn't mean that I didn't find something to appreciate about it. And I always do with Antonioni's films. I think I kind of feel that that's the kind of thing I have with his films, actually, is that sometimes I find them to be a bit of a chore, but at the same time, there's always something to appreciate.
Yeah, this film is a chore to watch, to be honest. You are sat there wondering why you're watching what's on screen, because there's things that seem very inane, like you said, and it's only from after finishing watching and you've got to look back on it and you kind of think, oh yeah, it kind of makes more sense now I thought about it. But when you sat there in the moment, it's incredibly frustrating to watch these films.
There is a bit of clock watching, I find, with those kind of films. Is it over yet, you know? Which is a shame. But sometimes that's what art is, I guess. You know, it's about...
Once you've forgotten the pain of having to sit through it,
yeah.
so it's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for this time on Films on That. Thanks for watching and subscribing. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.